Talking with the experts.
In this episode, Matthew Gillman explains how we could be unintentionally harming our business by mingling our business and personal finances.
You have to. It's not possible. I mean, right? For me, right? Like, so I'm in finance, and I wanted to start a finance company, and that was after working for other companies. But I knew my trade, right? I knew how to look at loans, how to help businesses, how to underwrite business loans so they would perform. That I knew how to do, but I have to pay payroll, right? I have to do my accounting. I have to make sure that I have the right insurance coverage. I mean, I have to do all of these things that, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an accountant, right? I've never been a recruiter, right? So all of these things I can't possibly know the answers to. And you might as well ask somebody who's already made the mistakes, who's already had the trouble, like to help you avoid it.
Absolutely.
Welcome to Talking with the Experts. This is where we discuss great ideas to take your business to the next level. How do we know these ideas work? Well, it's because we're talking with business owners who are using these ideas. Business owners who have years of experience and expertise. All things business by business owners for business owners. And now, here is your host, Rose Davidson.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. I'm your host, Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com. Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners. You can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. Today, my guest is Matthew Gillman. And Matthew is going to be speaking to us about how we as business owners are unintentionally harming our businesses. And he's going to share how, as a business owners, harming our business through mingling business and finance and personal finances and not reviewing business credit reports, accepting finances from unknown entities and keeping messy records can be harming our businesses. And it's very timely because here in Australia, it's towards the end of the financial year. So he'll no doubt share with us some hints and tips on how we can move forward and be more prepared for that time of the year. Welcome, Matthew, and thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again for having me.
Yeah, so you are a financing expert with more than a decade of experience in commercial lending. You are the founder and CEO of SMB Compass, a specialty finance company providing education and financing options for business owners. How did you get started?
Sure. So I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always done what I can to try to earn some money. I've always been interested in business. And when I was in college, I actually had interned for a small business lender, actually through an SBA lender in New York, and really took a liking to it. Really enjoy working with all different businesses. And I think one of the most exciting thing about being in business finance is you get to learn a lot about all different companies. You get to learn about businesses and industries you want to be in. You actually get to learn about industries you don't want to be in. But I think what's really cool is not only do you learn about it, but when you talk to different people in different industries, you can really carry a conversation with anybody. So I think there's some really, really cool things about being in business finance.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with you there. You get the backbone or the backbone skeleton of every type of business, and you can work out how they can be better, or what they're doing right, what they're not doing right. But how I know we're all guilty of it, mingling our business finances with our personal finances. It sometimes is unavoidable, but how can we separate the two, and why is it the best way to go?
Sure. I think it's a common mistake, especially early on. But you'd also be surprised that as a business grows, you start to see business owners that use the business as their personal account, right? We've seen it over and over again where, it's very obvious transactions that are not for the business, right? You might see a finance company, for example, and you look through credit card statements and you see Bloomingdale's, or you see You see every breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and Starbucks, and you name it, and a Porsche, right? And you say to yourself, like, I don't know if that should be a business expense. And we see it often, and really regardless of the size of the company. But what ends up happening is those are expenses that get run through a company. And when they get run through a company, it reduces the profits. And when profits are reduced, or lenders see that what's happening in the business isn't all for the business, lenders don't want to provide financing.
Yeah, well,
And that can happen also through underwriting, right? I mean, if a business is being underwritten for their cash flow and their ability to afford debt, but the profits are being taken away from personal expenses, then a bank views it that the business can't afford it, when maybe the business could if it wasn't being commingled.
Yeah. Okay. So how do we get around that problem of do we pay ourselves a wage?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, I think they just have to, as an individual, you're an entity and you should be getting a wage, and the business should only have business expenses. And I think it goes back to a lot of things in business or in life. It just comes down to discipline, right? I think when you start a company and as your business grows, you really have to have discipline. And that discipline of paying yourself what the business could afford to pay you through the proper means of actually paying you is really important.
Okay, so I guess when you're first starting out, and it's really silly when you're starting out not to have some a backstop capital, but just in case you don't and you just start on the shoestring, how do you then not use the business money to pay, your groceries or your mortgage or whatever?
No, I think paying yourself a wage is okay, right? I think oftentimes when a business starts, a small business owner will start as a sole proprietor, and they'll use personal bank statements, right? They won't create an entity, well, because it also costs money, right? And not everybody has savings or a backstop, and that's completely understandable. And in fact, most people don't. But when you go to start a company, you really should create an entity. You really should go to your bank and open a business bank account, and paying yourself, regardless of the salary, from the business to yourself is okay, right? I mean, but that is a true expense to the company, and then that's taxable income. But if you go around and shop and do different things that are not part of the business, then ultimately that's being recorded as an expense. And when it's recorded as an expense, you're starting to commingle.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had ran a business some years ago, and I made the mistake of mingling, and so I would just take out of the business, and then oftentimes I'd overspend, not remembering that there wasn't some expense come out that was a business expense, and got ourselves into a little bit of trouble. It took a while to get out of it, but thankfully we had gracious suppliers that would take time payment rather than have to pay it off all at once. So we were very lucky in that sense. But I really learned a hard lesson. Sorry,
that's a really good point. I mean, that's one of the things that business owners unintentionally do to harm themselves is being reactive versus proactive. Right? I think across the board, by planning and budgeting, especially with financing, it's tedious though, right? And I think entrepreneurs like to build, and business owners like to make their customers happy and sell and grow and employ people. And that's kind of the fun part of it, and stressful. Don't get me wrong. It's also stressful. But if you don't do the administrative work, and you don't plan and you don't budget, it's very easy for it to catch up with you, especially on the finance side.
Yeah, and it was hard back then too, because there wasn't internet banking. So, you have to rely on paper statements to come out every month. And of course, you paid everything by check. So quite often the checkbook didn't match up with the bank statement, because, some expense or other had come out. And that's where we got caught out, is because, And so when internet banking came in, it made it a hell of a lot easier. And so, yeah, I would suggest that everyone does their banking online rather than, I mean, I don't know if they have checks in America still, but here they're pretty much redundant.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think anyone pays by check unless it's a bank check, not a check from a checkbook.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We actually see companies that will pay by check because it gives them some more time before the money
Yes.
comes out.
Yeah, no, I think
You add in the mail time. You add in the mail time.
It's in the mail. It's in the mail, yes. And then you
It's
wait.
always in the mail.
It's
You
always in the
can't say
mail.
that when it's a wire or like, it's an ACH. They're gonna find out in one day. But we hear it all the time, right? The check's in the mail. But if you give
Absolutely.
your customers net 30 payment terms and you put a check in the mail on day 30, you're kind of giving yourself 35 or 37 days because it's postmarked at 30.
That's it. Absolutely. Yeah. And I learned some valuable lessons back then. And so now, I'm into my bank account every single day just to make sure that, I haven't snuck an expense in there that doesn't belong. So, yeah, but it's easy to do. You think, oh, I don't have any money in my personal savings. I'll just sneak that back out of the business. And then you think, yeah, I'll pay it back, but you never do. You never pay it back. It's a bit like a credit card.
Well, internet banking is a lot of, the term gamified, right? There's a lot of things that have, by moving to the internet and making things so easy to access on your phone. When you say you check your bank account every day, I do too, but I think I check it on my phone more than I check it on my computer. And there's so many tools that business owners can use on their phone to be proactive. I mean, even when it comes to credit scores, right? I mean, you are unintentionally harming your business by not checking your scores. You can check Dun & Bradstreet and you could check your business credit. You could check your personal credit because as a small business owner, a lot of lenders view personal credit as a huge component of getting financing. So you have so many tools to check your credit every day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's excessive, but you can.
Yeah, but you can also, like, on your phone, you can send invoices, you can pay invoices, you can do so much. I mean, the world has moved forward so much in the last 20 years. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely.
You God, I'm showing my age now. Matthew, what advice would you give people who, other than, don't mix business with personal, but, what are some steps that they could do to keep that separate?
Yeah, I think as a business owner, one of the things that really did help me early on and helps me even more today is surrounding myself with people that are business owners and that have had experiences that can help me. Because even in this conversation, right, you sharing some of the things that you've gone through, right, as an entrepreneur, a lot of people don't realize that, when you're sitting around, a family event and you look around the table, you have a bunch of business owners, and whether or not they're in the same industry, most of them, they have payroll, they have insurance expenses, they've tried to borrow money, they've opened a bank account, they've done all of these things. So it's really easy to get a whole lot of free advice from people by just looking at your inner circle. And I think the first thing people do kind of is they go online, which of course is helpful, or they look outward, when all you have to do is look at your family and your friends, and you'll find a whole lot of people that can give you advice. But you have to admit when you don't know something.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And sometimes it's hard, you think that you're meant to know everything, but my God, no one can know absolutely everything. It's impossible. And you always need help. I think it doesn't matter what it is in business, you need help. And, you've got to be brave to ask those questions, and don't try and do it alone, because oftentimes you get yourself into the poo if you don't ask the questions.
You have to. It's not possible. I mean, right? You for me, right? Like, so I'm in finance, and I wanted to start a finance company, and that was after working for other companies. But I knew my trade, right? I knew how to look at loans, how to help businesses, how to underwrite business loans so they would perform. that I knew how to do, but I have to pay payroll, right? I have to do my accounting. I have to make sure that I have the right insurance coverage. I mean, I have to do all of these things that, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an accountant, right? I've never been a recruiter, right? So all of these things I can't possibly know the answers to. And you might as well ask somebody ask somebody who's already made the mistakes, who's already had the trouble, like to help you avoid it.
Absolutely, yes. And that's, one of the reasons for this podcast is to have people like you that can help us as entrepreneurs to avoid the mistakes. And so we get the little hints and tidbits and advice that, that we need, that we thought we knew, but we didn't really know all along the way. So yeah, it's people like yourself, it's really helpful, because I don't have a lot of finance people on, which so I'm really grateful that you've come here today, because finances is the backbone of a business, basically. And if you don't get it right, you're looking at liquidation if everything fails.
Yeah, and not all finance is the same. Not all types of business loans are the same. The wrong type of financing could get you in trouble.
Absolutely. Tell me a little bit about SMB Compass. What do they do?
Sure. So being in different types, like as talking about different lending products, I mean, there's all different types of lending products for different use cases, right? There's equipment financing or leasing when you want to look for equipment. There's SBA loans here, which are long-term duration loans that help companies with debt refinance or acquisitions. But a lot of business owners that come in, they're looking for a dollar amount, right? And I think what we really focus on at SMB Compass is the why. Because you might be looking for $100,000, but why are you looking for $100,000? Is it for equipment? Because if it's for equipment, we want to ask the questions. Well, what's the lifespan of that equipment, right? You can't take a piece of equipment that's going to generate a certain amount of revenue and pay it off over 1 year if the revenue is not going to support the payment, right? So I think a lot of business owners, they come in and if it's because they're very good at their trade. But when it comes to finance, I'm looking for 100,000. And for us at SMB Compass, what we do is we focus on the why. We focus on why they're looking for the money, and we try to align what their cash flow is, what they could afford with the type of financing that we put in place. And I'd say in some cases, you've got the optimal solution, but in a lot of cases, it's a compromise, like everything, right? It may not be the best rate or the longest term or the fanciest new piece of equipment that you can buy. But at the end of the day, like, can a business owner support that solution? Is there a return on their investment? And is it going to put them in a better place after they get the financing than they were before they got it? And if the answer isn't yes, then we tell business owners all the time, this isn't the right thing to do. People don't always listen, and we don't always know the right answer. But we just feel like we could put all the cards on the table and help a business owner the best that we can. And that's really what our mission is.
Yeah, it's good to have someone in the corner that, gives the advice that sometimes we don't want to hear. We're so focused on buying this piece of equipment. We think, oh my God, it would be so nice to have. But someone like yourself just says, yeah, it's nice to have, but you don't really need it. Or you really can't
That's
afford
life, right?
it. Yeah, or you can't afford it. Leave it till next year when finances are a little bit better. And someone like yourself, it's hard to hear, but it's honest opinion, and it should be taken as it is, not I'll just do it anyway and then end up in the shit.
Yeah, and you know what, for us, I think if I step in the shoes of the business owner, right, it's always easy to be on the other side of the table when there's no emotional attachment to the situation, right? I mean, we can give as much advice as we can, but we're not the ones who have to make payroll on Friday, right? Like, or we're not the ones that want to, right, that need to buy the piece of equipment to finish a specific job. So at the end of the day, what we can do is provide as much information as possible for a business owner to make an educated decision. But it's easy for us because we're not emotionally tied to the money. And I think that's a big disconnect in a lot of things where a business owner has a lot of things going on. And just because it might not have been the right thing or the right decision, they are making 10 decisions and they need to make a decision and keep going forward.
That's it. Yeah, I agree. That's it. So what are some action items that business owners can take to ensure that they're putting their business in the best position?
Sure. I think from the beginning, one of the things that you can really do is a business is simple when it starts. And the bigger your business gets, the more customers you have, the more complicated it's going to get. And I think that the best thing a business owner can do to financially prepare themselves is to properly keep their books. If you're in a business where you think you're going to, or you may in the future need to apply for financing, or you get to the end of the year and you need to pay your taxes or you pay your quarterlies, in either case, you need to have your financials in order. They have to be in order. They have to be done correctly. And people often look at accountants and certain services as an expense item, and they're not fun. They don't help you grow your business. They help you protect your business. But I would say keeping your financials in place and doing it correct from the beginning is really important, because the bigger you get, if it's not done correctly, the bigger the problem is going to be when you need to fix it. And the more expensive it's going to be when you walk into a CPA firm and you say, here are my books, and they say this is going to take us X amount of hours at this rate just to fix the problem. You realize that if you just did it right along the way, it would make a huge impact.
So when using an accounting system like QuickBooks or Xero, or be better than using a spreadsheet?
Absolutely. I mean, I think we use QuickBooks. I'd say 70% of the people that we work with use QuickBooks. And of course, there's other great platforms out there as well. But they have so many videos. I mean, Xero, QuickBooks, FreshBooks, Sage. I mean, there's so many of them, and they all have tutorials and videos that can help you, set up your chart of accounts in the beginning and do things right from day one. And day one is easy, right? There's very little expenses. There's very little revenue. So you kind of have to do it along the way. And I would say absolutely the softwares are fairly inexpensive. I would not start on spreadsheets. I would absolutely go straight into an accounting software.
Yeah. The trouble with me is that I stack up all the accounts, and then I think, oh my God, at the end of financial year, then I've got hours and hours to input them into this spreadsheet, or, because I'm a bit cheap like that. But yeah, it's better to do it set some time aside every week.
Yeah,
or have a bookkeeper.
If you set 5 minutes, you could set 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes goes by really quickly when you do something you really like to do. I mean, 5 minutes is, even if you hate doing it, it's only 5 minutes, right? So in 5 minutes, I mean, there's not, depending on the business, you can do your books every day and reconcile in 5 minutes. So you should, because at the end of the year, there's nothing to do. You just hand it over to your accountant and that's it. Or you file your own taxes.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, and there are a lot of things that, like QuickBooks, will actually integrate with your bank account. So it makes it so much easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, you have to just take the time to learn how to use it. And even if it's speaking with somebody that, again, is another business owner that uses it, it integrates. I mean, our payroll system integrates with QuickBooks. Our bank account integrates with QuickBooks. Our credit card processing integrates with QuickBooks. I mean, everything integrates. You still have to maintain it, because if you don't maintain it, it can create even a bigger mess. But if you watch the videos, watch the tutorials, spend a little time and admit to yourself as a business owner that it's something you have to do to protect yourself, and it's something you have to do to prepare for the future, is to do your books correctly, then that's part of being a business owner. It's everyone thinks it's always fun. It's not always fun. It's a lot of work.
No, you don't want the tax people coming after you. That's one organization that you want to keep at arm's length.
Pay your taxes. You got to pay your taxes.
Matthew, where can people find you if they'd like to learn more or to work with your business?
Sure. So our website is called www.smbcompass.com. If you Google us or go on our website, we've got a lot of great content. You can chat with somebody on the site or give us a call. We're always happy to be as helpful as we can.
And have you got written a book about financing, or have you got a podcast or anything that you'd like to share with us?
I don't. I'm on your podcast, which has been great. And I am not a writer.
Good answer. Matthew, have you got some, great piece of advice or a quote or something that you'd like to share before we finish up today?
Sure. Yeah, and I actually think I'm taking this one from you in today's conversation. I mean, you have to ask questions. I mean, we all don't know the answers. Anybody that pretends they do needs to look in the mirror, because it's just not possible. And when you don't know the answers and you guess, you can get yourself into a bind. And with so many people and so many resources and everything that you can do from your phone and your computer, and you can go on the internet, you can text a friend. I mean, there's no reason for people to make decisions without any type of education or information. So I think, again, taking it from you, I mean, people have to ask questions in business and in personal life.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Yes. And if we ask more questions, then there'd be less businesses go broke, I think.
People too.
Yeah. Matthew, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming on today. And I hope that you'll come back again another time.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
You've been listening to Talking with the Experts, hosted by Rose Davidson. Make sure you have a look at our back catalogue over at talkingwiththeexperts.com, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on any episode. We look forward to your company next time. Talking with the Experts.